my name is Andrew Bodhi Kennings. I was previously a Theravada Buddhist monk for 3 years. I ordained in Thailand at Wat Bawaniwet, the previous king's temple, not the new king, where the previous king ordained. And look, generally before I was a monk, I just was a normal Aussie kid. I went to a private school and played sport, and I became an accountant. I studied accounting at UTS and worked at Deloitte's. And then I went on a camping trip with a friend, and he gave me a book by Ayakema. It's called Being Nobody Going Nowhere. And I thought that was the most ridiculous sounding title I had ever heard in my life. Who would want to be being nobody going nowhere? I was an accountant and I was ready to conquer the world at that stage. I was quite young. I was about 20 or 21, I think. So anyway, I read the book over the next couple of hours, and needless to say, it changed my life. Knowing ignorance before knowing the Dharma, the ignorance, I just had no idea about Buddhism. I really didn't. So I'm so thankful to my friend. When I was a monk, I really focused on meditation. That was my thing. I probably wasn't the most scholarly monk in the world, but I just really wanted to focus on meditation, the importance of the mind from a Western philosophy. It just was really important to me, and Buddhist monks seemed to know where it was at with the mind, so I became a monk. I ordained as a monk. I had some fantastic teachers. Bhante Mahinda teaching Metta is one of the most beautiful teachings I've ever encountered. Ajahn Brahms over in Perth, many of you would know him. He's a jhana master. He teaches samatha meditation or concentration. And Bhante Panyavaro, who I live with at Bodhi Tree Monastery. And he runs BuddhaNet, which many of you would know. He also runs Vipassana meditation retreats at Bodhi Tree Forest Monastery. So look, as a monk, I tried to learn the different styles, and then I tried to incorporate that into my own practice. So the foundation of my practice was mindfulness, but I use concentration when I need to tune my attention. If perhaps I was doing a particularly difficult mindfulness session, or I knew I had one ahead of me, and I needed to focus on my object because I wanted to find something behind it, but we'll get into that. So I tried to use metta as well. Loving kindness is so important to have loving kindness for yourself. When you've done a few weeks in silence, having loving kindness for yourself and being able to just take your foot off the accelerator for a while of mindfulness when you're doing 16 hours of mindfulness a day. It's nice just to be able to have a session of loving kindness. So I used the three as skillfully as I could. So we'll start with a guided metta meditation. This is loving kindness. What I do, I'll just run you through what I do with meditation. Generally, I always start with an intention. Intentions create karma. So an intention always precedes an action or a thought. So intention is the foundation of karma. So we set an intention. And the intention is for loving kindness, to generate a physical sensation of loving kindness, which then becomes our primary object of meditation. So I'll say that again. We generate a physical sensation of loving kindness, which becomes our primary meditation object. It's the physical sensation of loving kindness that we concentrate on. This is a form of concentration meditation. Once we've done the intention, we'll do 3 deep breaths. We'll do a body scan. I find 3 deep breaths. I always do 3 deep breaths before meditation. It's just a physiological sign to the body that it's time to meditate. Other than that, it's fantastic to take with me in daily life. I can always use 3 deep breaths and it instantly relaxes me. We'll have the guided metta meditation. We'll finish with 3 deep breaths and then we'll make an intention. Simply that we'll be acting with loving kindness to ourselves and others. Okay. So if everyone wants to just get their meditation sorted, get your posture right. Your hips have to be, well, there's many different ways to do it, but generally hips should be facing forward. Shoulder blades should be slightly facing back, so somebody's got their knee slightly in your back, very gently. And we just relax our neck and shoulders. Pardon me, I'm getting over the flu. So we'll make our intention to generate a physical sensation of loving kindness, which will become our primary meditation object. We'll start with 3 deep breaths. And we'll just start off with a body scan. Just relaxing up through our feet, up through our toes. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. Just up through our heels, up through our shins and our calves. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. And up through our knees. And up through our thighs. Just letting go of any tension. Up through the hips, the stomach, and up through the chest. And just relaxing our heart. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. And just across our shoulders. And down through our upper arms. Down through our elbows. Our forearms. Our wrist. The hand. The fingers. And just letting go of any tension out through our fingernails. And just coming back up our arms. Back up the shoulders. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. Through the neck. And through the jaw. The teeth. The tongue. Just relaxing the lips, cheeks, the nose, just letting go of any tension. Each breath. And through our eyes, our eyelids, most importantly behind the eyes. Just letting go of any tension. Just relaxing with each breath. Up through the eyebrows and the forehead. And up through the ears and across the top of the head. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. And down through the back of the head, all the way down the neck, down through the shoulder blades, all the way to the bottom of the pillow. So we'll start with loving kindness for ourselves. We will simply think of a good deed or action that we've done in the last week. Maybe a good word to somebody, a family member, a friend. And we'll just recollect that good deed. You are a good person that might be coming tonight to a Dharma talk, whatever it is. Just think of that. You are a good person. And just start to generate a feeling of loving kindness for yourself. Life's not easy. Just feel it in your heart, a feeling of loving kindness for yourself. You are a good person. And we'll just sit for a minute and we'll just concentrate on that feeling of loving kindness. If your mind wanders, just recollect the thought or the action, the deed, whatever it was. So we'll just sit for a minute, concentrating on the loving kindness for ourselves. So now spread loving kindness to others. And we'll start with somebody we admire, somebody we look up to. Perhaps the Buddha, perhaps a teacher. Just picture that person or the deed that you admire and generate loving kindness for that person. And send them your feeling of loving kindness to somebody we admire. Quite easy to generate loving kindness for this kind of person. So we'll just sit for a minute. Just recollect the person or the deed that they did that you admire. Generate a feeling of loving kindness. Maybe it's in your chest. And just concentrate on that feeling. And send them your loving kindness. May you be well and happy. May you be free from suffering. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from suffering. Really wish it. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from mental and physical suffering. So now we'll move on to a close family member or friend. Again, it's quite easy to generate loving kindness for them. May they be well and happy. May they be free from mental and physical suffering. We'll just sit for a minute and we'll concentrate on the feeling of loving kindness, the sensation of loving kindness. And we'll send it out to that person. May they be well and happy. May they be free from mental and physical suffering. We'll move on to a neutral person. Maybe somebody you briefly know, but don't have a close relationship. Again, will generate loving kindness for that person. May they be well and happy. May they be free from mental and physical suffering. Again, we generate a feeling of loving kindness for that person. Just concentrate on the sensation for 1 minute. May they be well and happy. May they be free from mental and physical suffering. Now we'll move on to a difficult person, maybe somebody we're having trouble with. And we'll just forgive them and send them our loving kindness. Just forgive them for whatever they did. Nobody's perfect. And try to send them some loving kindness. And a wish. May they be well and happy. May they be free from mental and physical suffering. So we'll just finish with ourselves. May we be well and happy. May we be free from mental and physical suffering. Again, recollect a deed or words that you did previously, maybe coming tonight. And have loving kindness for yourself. It's so important. So we'll just sit for another minute. Genuine wish. May I be well and happy. May I be free from mental and physical suffering. May I be well and happy. May I be free from mental and physical suffering. So that loving kindness we have inside us, we spread around the room. We spread loving kindness in front. We spread loving kindness behind. We spread loving kindness left. We spread loving kindness right. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from mental and physical suffering. We spread our loving kindness above. We spread our loving kindness below. We spread our loving kindness to the people around us. All the people in Sydney, may they all be well and happy. May they all be free from mental and physical suffering. All the people in New South Wales. All the people in Australia, may they all be well and happy. May they all be free from mental and physical suffering. Indeed, may all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from mental and physical suffering. Spread the loving kindness around the world. All the beings in the world. All the beings in the solar system. All the beings in our galaxy. Neighbouring galaxies. And the universe. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from mental and physical suffering. So we'll just finish slowly with 3 deep breaths and an intention to feel loving kindness for those around us and the beings around us. So I hope you're all able to generate a feeling of loving kindness there, a physical sensation, wherever you feel it, maybe in your chest. It's a pleasant, warm feeling. Obviously, being a concentration exercise, it increases the longer you can keep your attention on it. So every time the mind wanders, simply bring your mind back to the object, which is the physical sensation of loving kindness. So now, that was just our warm-up. Now I'll give a brief talk about Vipassana or mindfulness. And then we'll do a Vipassana, mindfulness sit, and that will be silent. That will be followed by a little reporting session, if anybody wants to report. And I'll give a brief talk about what you can report. And you can report anything you want to, but I'll give you some brief guidelines. And then a question and answer session, just anything you want to ask, it's fine. Vipassana, mindfulness. Many of you will know about it. The Buddha's first discourse, The Turning of the Wheel of Dharma, spoke about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And sati, of course, is part of the Eightfold Path. Again, I'm just going to skip over the beginner Buddhism. I'm hoping you all understand what the Eightfold Path is. If you don't, I encourage you to get a book about beginner of Buddhism. Buddhism for beginners, but I don't have long enough today. So sati is a part of the Eightfold Path, and that's what we're working with today. That's mindfulness. And the teaching that I've been taught and I'll be teaching today is based on the Satipatthana Sutta, or the Foundations of Mindfulness, which is the Buddha's discourse on mindfulness. So if you haven't read it, the Satipatthana Sutta, Bhikkhu Bodhi's anthology of the Buddha's discourses is a great place to start. He's an amazing translator, and it's a great source material for any Buddhist. So I'll just acknowledge that the style of teaching I will be teaching today, and I learnt from, originated obviously from the Buddha's teachings, but in more modern times it comes through Burma. It comes through Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw in Burma. He had a centre there in Yangon, and he's taught many famous Buddhists, to use want of a better term, Jack Kornfeld, Sharon Salzberg, many of you will know Patrick Kearney, and Bhante Panyavara, just to name a few, who all learnt in Burma in the 80s under Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw before he sadly passed away. So I'll also stress too the importance of a Vipassana meditation retreat. If you haven't done one, go and do a 10-day retreat. There's plenty of retreat centres around the place. I would recommend Bodhi Tree, Forest Monastery, or the Insight Meditation Centre at Blue Mountains. Yeah, I'm sure you can find one, but something that's in the Mahasi Sayadaw tradition, or that concentrates on the Satipatthana Sutta, because there's a lot of other teachers out there who call themselves Vipassana teachers, and they may well be. There's many paths up the mountain, but if you want to learn this path, then that's the path you need to take, the Satipatthana Sutta. So just a brief summary of the Satipatthana Sutta. It is called the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. The foundations of mindfulness are the body, feelings, mind states, and thoughts, or dharmas. So the first one, body. Just to give you a brief summary, mindfulness of breathing is what we're going to be doing today. Our object is the touch sensation of the air at the nostrils, and that will be our primary object, touch sensation of the air at the nostrils as our primary object. So we'll be doing mindfulness of body. Other body mindfulness meditations, I guess, or contemplations, the four postures of the body, clearly knowing daily activities, anatomical parts, the four material elements. I don't want to go into them too much, but obviously we will be using material elements today when we look at the touch sensation of the air at the nostrils. Generally, there'll be movement, which is part of the air element. We also have solidity, which is the earth element, temperature, which is the fire element, and cohesion, which is the water element. Obviously, our bodies are quite cohesive. They're made of water. We can all find fire in our bodies at certain points if we have pain or if we're feeling warm. And the final one is meditation on a corpse in decay, which I don't think we have much need for that tonight. So sorry about that. I'll just bring you back here. There we go. Okay. So look, sorry, I'll just fix this up quickly. There we go. Apologies for that, everybody. Should be right now. The second foundation of mindfulness is feelings. Feelings are not what we know of in Western terms as fluffy feelings of happiness or sadness or whatever you think. Feelings are just purely pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Nothing more. Everything has a feeling tone. Every thought has a feeling tone. Every sensation has a feeling tone. Every mind state has a feeling tone, certainly. So that's a very nice contemplation. We won't be doing that tonight. But mindfulness of feelings is really nice. It's a nice way to gain some experience in the Dharma. Mindfulness of mind states is the third of the Satipatthanas, the foundations of mindfulness, and that is basically our mind states. So we have higher and lower mind states. You're welcome to look them up. I'm not going to go into those tonight. The fourth one is mindfulness of dharmas or mental phenomenon. Again, I'll just list them, a brief summary for you all. You're most welcome to go into them. They're the 5 hindrances, the 5 aggregates, the 6 sense spheres, the 7 factors of awakening, and the 4 noble truths. So look, mental noting is one aspect of mindfulness meditation, which is great. It's a mental noting technique. It's basically where, as mindfulness meditators, we note things such as our feelings, such as the movement of our body during daily activities. And we basically note it along the lines of moving. You might say it twice, for example, or breathing, or whatever it is, thinking, whatever it is, we just label it. It's a form of labeling. We just call it noting. So what I will get you to do is simply note tonight. We will note secondary objects as they appear. For example, thinking, distractions, pain, whatever it is, just label it and then return to our primary object. Our primary object is the touch sensation of the air at the nostrils. That is the first Satipatthana on body. So you're going to be getting a lot of feelings and mind states and thoughts coming up. Simply note them, thinking, or whatever it is. Go back to your object. We'll be looking, when you're looking at your object, your meditation object, it's a little bit different to samatha meditation, which is attention meditation or jhana-based meditation. We become absorbed into the object. With mindfulness, we're maybe using a little bit of wisdom or insight just to have a slight investigation into the object without disturbing it too much. We don't want to disturb our object, but you might notice specific characteristics of that primary object. For example, as I described earlier, the elements. You might notice movement of the object. You might also notice that your object changes. Your breath might be long or short. It might be fast or slow. There are a lot of different things to note. The breath can also be very beautiful at times. So look, generally when we're working with daily mindfulness and mindfulness in daily activities, things come up. We're not living in a monastery. We've got families, we've got bosses, we have to get to work, we've got traffic jams, we live in a modern society, and things can tick us off a little bit. So that's where mindfulness really comes in, because being mindful of those body sensations first, or the unpleasant feeling, can often stop it stop the action in its tracks and stop you creating any bad karma, so to speak, or the bad karma will have manifested itself already, but your mindfulness will stop it there and it will purify it. Okay, so ultimately the Vipassana practice leads to insight into impermanence, into unsatisfactoriness, and not self of all things, whether they're objects or collections or thoughts. All those things share the nature, that's the nature of all things: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. And again, I'm not going to go into that tonight, but if you do a 10-day meditation retreat, hopefully at the end of it, you will see that. Having knowledge of karma and the wheel of rebirth, I guess insight meditation into our own greed, our own aversion, and our own ignorance, again, is very purifying to be mindful of that tends to stop it in our tracks. So how do we integrate that into our daily life? We use negative situations that cause a level of noticeably perceptible suffering, i.e., for example, you just really, really know you're hurting, you're suffering. That's the time to bring in mindfulness. And again, hopefully the exercises we work on in our meditation practice will help you do that. Will help you catch it at the body sensation or the simple unpleasant feeling or the unpleasant thought. And hopefully that won't turn into a bad deed or action or word that will create a lot more karma for you. So these, if you can use that mindfulness then to purify that karma, it won't turn into a negative thought. And this is the crux. This is the crux of the whole teaching. It's our latent tendencies, our tendencies towards craving, aversion, or ignorance, or delusion. They are what karmically charge our rebirth over and over again in samsara. So these latent tendencies, we're often not aware of them, or if we are, we've put them behind many layers. They come out in stressful situations. Having a practice of mindfulness helps to purify those tendencies. And they are what is reborn. That's what makes you reborn as a person. Or as a, not as a person, but I think you all understand what I mean. So sati, or mindfulness, purifies by giving insight into the object of mindfulness and seeing with wisdom the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and egoless nature of the observed phenomenon, which ultimately leads to an end of suffering. This can be directly experienced by us all to a varying degree, simply by utilizing Vipassana techniques in our daily life. It can reduce suffering, or it may even disappear completely. I'm sure we can all think of certain examples in our daily life, as I mentioned before, where these challenging situations arise. And by applying mindfulness in these situations, we are directly experiencing the Buddha's teachings. So, once again, what is our primary object? What are we doing here? We're going to sit down. We're going to look at the touch sensation of the nostril at the breath. Right? We're looking and noting its changes, how it rises and falls, is it fast or slow, whatever you note about it. Try and be precise with your noting about your object. Now, if you've got training, there's a quick note to the intermediate and advanced meditators. If you've got training on a different object, such as the rise and fall of your abdomen, which is another popular object, that's fine, not a problem. Whatever your object is, it's all the same. You're just looking at the object, you're noticing its characteristics, and you will note or label anything else that comes up, any thinking, whatever it is, any distraction. So you're most welcome to use any primary object. I like the touch sensation of the air at the nostrils. It's a very pleasant one for me, and I do a lot of concentration meditation as well, a lot of jhana work, which uses the same object. So again, at the end of this, I'd like people to feel free to report things. I'd like you to report on, for example, how you're able to stay with your object, what you noticed about your object. It doesn't matter what it was. Could you keep your attention on your object? Was your mind wandering? Where was it wandering to? What was your mind state like? All those kinds of things. Anything you want to report. You had a great meditate. I don't mind. Whatever it is. So again, just getting back to our posture. We're sitting up straight. We'll get ready to meditate. Again, for Vipassana, we use an intention before we meditate. And the intention simply today is to use the touch sensation at the tip of the nostrils as a primary Vipassana object. Noting secondary objects if and when they arise. So once again, it's the touch sensation of the air at the nostrils. It's a body sensation. Our intention at the end of the meditation will be to maintain our mindfulness in our daily activities. So let's get the hips right, our shoulders, neck, back. Again, start with a brief body scan. So the intention is the touch sensation at the tip of the nostrils as our primary Vipassana object. We'll start with 3 deep breaths. Now our body should be fairly relaxed. We'll start with the body scan. Just relaxing our feet, letting go of any tension. Through our shins and calves. Just letting go of any tension. Through our knees. Through our thighs. And up through our hips. Our stomach. Just letting go of any tension we find. Just relaxing with each breath. And up through our chest. Just letting go of any tension. And in our heart. Just relaxing with each breath. And then down through our shoulders. Down through our arms, our elbows. Our forearms. Through our wrist, our hand, our fingers, just letting go of any tension. And back up through the arms, back up through the shoulders, through the neck, the chin, the jaw, the teeth, the tongue. Just letting go of any tension with each breath. And through your lips, through the nose, relaxing our cheeks, just letting go of any tension. And through our eyes, our eyelids, most importantly behind the eyes, just letting go of any tension. And through the forehead, and through the ears, across the top of the head, just relaxing. And down through the back of that spine, down through the back of the neck, down through the shoulders, all the way down to the cushion. So we'll just sit watching our primary object, noticing characteristics about it, and just noting when our mind wanders. We'll just sit for 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll just slowly take 3 deep breaths as we come back. And we'll just make an intention. Make an intention to keep our mindfulness through daily activities. When things get tough or in a bad situation, we're going to use that to be mindful of whatever bodily sensations, feelings, whether they're unpleasant, pleasant, or neutral, or mind states, how they arise. There's no ego to them, they're just a mind state. They're not permanent. And they're not satisfactory in terms of they won't satisfy you forever. You'll always need more of something. I guess the breath is the same, isn't it? There's no person behind it. It's always changing, and you always need another breath. So we'll finish tonight with some reporting. If people want to just report about what happened to them in their meditation, what they were aware of, if they felt it was a good or bad one. There's no such thing really, but then we can have some question and answer. So Tina, if you're there, yeah. Yeah, so anybody, if you do have any questions, just feel free. I'm not really very au fait with technology, to be honest, as you can probably tell. This is my second Zoom call, I think, in my life. So the first one wasn't very successful. You too, Jimmy. Have a nice night, mate. May you be well and happy.
Thank you so much, Bodhi. That was excellent. Thank you for leading us in those sessions. I've placed in the chat, so if anyone has any questions or if you would like to report on your experience, you are welcome to place that into the chat, and then I will read that out to Bodhi. Or if you feel like, you could also unmute yourself and you can share that way as well. So feel free to do that. And today we were going to talk about facing bad days, and the topic was why bad days aren't so bad. So maybe, Bodhi, while we're waiting for people to put their questions into the chat, can I invite you to say a bit about that topic?
Yeah, sure. So look, what we're talking about is latent tendencies inside us, tendencies towards craving, aversion, delusion about what's real. These latent tendencies are what cause karmic rebirth in samsara. If you want to get out of it, you got to purify it. So when we have really bad days, some certain tendencies towards anger or greed, whatever it is, can certainly arise. That's when they will arise, really bad days. And that's the perfect time to purify those latent tendencies by being mindful of the body sensations, the feelings, the mind states, and the thoughts. In a nutshell.
Thanks, Bodhi. I've just posed a question to the group, and the question is, what are some challenges that you may have facing or dealing with bad days? Or you could even ask about your meditation practice. So sometimes, not that there's any bad meditation, but if you feel like there's times when you do struggle a bit, then you're also welcome to put that into the chat as well. So I'll just pause there and give everyone a chance to put that into the chat. What are some challenges that you have in dealing with bad days? And then also, if you feel you don't feel like typing, but you feel like just saying it, you could also unmute yourself and do it that way too.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to unmute yourself and just tell me about how your meditation was. It was just a taste today, because obviously we meditate for a lot longer than that. So it's just a taste. Also, I don't really know the level I'm dealing with. So I'm trying to give everybody a little taste, if you like.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you, Bodhi. And also it was good that we started with the Metta meditation and then we moved into the Vipassana practice.
Yep, so Metta is obviously a concentration practice where we concentrate, and when we have things come up like noises or whatever, we just bring our mind straight back to our object. And that's all we're doing. We're training our attention. And mindfulness, of course, when we have a distraction, such as hearing, we're mindful of it, we note it, we see it come, we see it go, and then we go back to our object. And when we're looking at our object, we see certain characteristics about the object, which lead to wisdom into all things. The characteristics of the universe: impermanence, unsatisfactory, and egolessness. Of course, that's a big aim, but I'm not going to shy away from that.
Mm-hmm. So Bodhi, there hasn't been any questions that's come up as yet, so we'll just give people some time, but maybe in the meantime we can discuss about that too. So with the practice, we are observing the object, and we're also observing when it's ripe and it's appropriate, we also observe the characteristics, anicca, anatta, dukkha.
Yeah, that's correct. So obviously the characteristics you're seeing, there's a lot of things to see. So as the practice improves, you'll see a lot more. I remember when I used to report when I first started out, and it was pretty funny. I didn't have a whole lot to report. The breath was going in and out. So after a while, you learn to report more. You maybe see more things happening. You see many movements, whereas before you might have only seen one movement. You might start to notice more movements.
So Bodhi, we have a question, and the question starts with, thanks Bodhi. I find that sometimes 5% of my meditation is actually on the object and the rest is in la la land. And on bad days, it's even worse. Any tips on how to deal with that?
Yeah, so if you're talking about your mind wandering a lot, then you need to do concentration meditation. You need to do samatha practice. Recommend you look up Ajahn Brahm's teachings, concentration on the breath. And really, attention is just a muscle. We just practice and we strengthen it. We need attention, even when we're doing Vipassana or mindfulness. We need to be able to be on our object for some, length of time. Obviously, distractions arise, such as sound or noise. You just label it. It's just hearing. At the end of the day, it's just your eardrum. It's no big deal. It's not a thing. It's sound. It's your eardrum rubbing together. And then the big story starts. So we might hear something. The body sensation is the eardrum. It might be an unpleasant feeling because we're meditating. It might be a loud noise. Someone might drop something. The tone of it is unpleasant. It might lead to a state of mind of frustration. What is this person dropping things for? And then we might start thinking, and we enter la la land. We just think about everything from the cat to the kids to everything. Then we realize we're meant to be meditating. So that's a common practice. That just means you've just got to practice a bit more. If it was happening continually, after you've done a 10-day retreat or something, then that's a little bit different. But you've got to be honest with yourself a certain bit too, and put the effort in. I guess it's really tricky in daily life to achieve significant success with meditation, it should be said. I found that people need to do an intensive retreat, and then that will give you the tools to take it to daily life, and then use those tools in daily life much easier, much easier. So I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Bodhi. So really practicing samatha practice. So you've got an object that you're coming to and you're using this as calm abiding, calming your mind, and also the noting techniques. So just noting when thoughts arise or sounds that may interfere, and just noting it as it is in a neutral way. In the Mahasi practice, they also do walking meditation. Is that something that could help as well to ground someone if they have lost in thoughts?
Yes, definitely. It's a good way of introduction to the practice for sure. It's a great way for mindfulness. Mindfulness of the movement of the feet. That's our primary object, the actual movement of the foot. Sorry, I've got a cramp. So look, yeah, it's important not to confuse samatha practice and Vipassana practice. One is concentration, one is mindfulness. So certainly we need concentration. If we're a meditator, we need both. We need concentration, we need mindfulness, and we need loving kindness at times too, when things get too tough. So work on your attention, get it to a point where you can at least stay with your object for a couple of seconds, if that makes sense. You know, maybe 30 seconds or something. That kind of level. And realistically, I guess, when you can stay on your object for a bit longer, particularly obviously if you're doing concentration meditation, you stay with it for a long time. Yeah, practice concentration, get that strong, and then come back to mindfulness. And they both, they help each other.
And Bodhi, for those who are interested in the Mahasi practice, and if they are distracted by thoughts, could you speak a little bit about perhaps dropping that primary object of, say, if it was the breath, and then using instead the thoughts as no longer a secondary object, but the primary object?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. And that is, I mean, you don't necessarily want to do that, but you know, if the thoughts, if that's what you're experiencing, then that's your primary object of meditation. But you know, mind wandering, you simply note it. You simply see it. It goes. You note it, whatever it is, whether it's an unpleasant thought or unpleasant sensation. It's simply noted. It's simply noted. And that tends to take the karmic charge out of it a little bit too. So as your attention improves, you'll start to be able to notice the things that cause your mind to run, distractions. And they always start with a body sensation. You know, it always does. Even if it's a noise, you know, the noise hits your ear, or even if it's a thought, you know, that's in your brain. So yeah, it always starts somewhere in the body, and it always has a feeling tone, whatever it is. Even anger, you know, it starts in your stomach. You feel yourself angry, feel yourself getting angry physically. So if you're mindful of that, and you're mindful of the unpleasant feeling, then yeah, that can help.
Thank you so much, Bodhi. Lots of tips there. The next one comes from one answering that question about what challenges we may face in dealing with bad days. And the question is that it can be hard to switch off when having a bad day, as this person will keep thinking of it or beat themselves up for quite some time. So any advice about that?
Well, my honest advice is that you should probably just improve your meditation practice by going on a retreat to improve the mind, so that you can get to a point where there's no suffering. But we can't all do that. That's tricky, but that's my first piece of advice, to go and become a meditator. It's really important. You know, you've only got one life. Go and do it. Go and do an intensive retreat. It will completely change your life. But certainly being mindful of, for example, if you're thinking about a bad day constantly, how does that make you feel? Start there. How does it make you feel in your body? What is it? Your stomach? Is it your head? Where is it? Where are you feeling it? And just be mindful of that. Be mindful of just the unpleasant sensation of it. It's just a sensation, and it's got a tone to it. If that makes sense. That's the best word I can possibly describe. Everything has a tone, like a taste. And it's either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And if you're just mindful of that. So we try to catch it before it gets to the thinking phase. Because once it gets to the thinking phase, you're in La La Land.
And it also sounds that they beat themselves up for quite some time. So it seems like there's that ruminating of the mind as well, where they're going back into the past and they're thinking about what's happened. So what could be a way to help this person?
Loving kindness, obviously. Loving kindness for yourself is just so important. That's the foundation of the practice. It's practicing loving kindness first and being good at that, and then improving your attention, and then improving your mindfulness, probably in that order. Metta is so important. Loving kindness. Our relationships are what causes us 90% of the pain in this world. The real hurt, it comes from our relationships. So, you know, having loving kindness for ourselves and for others is just completely vital for a meditator.
Oh, can I just throw something in?
Yes,
hey,
Mel?
I just want to say thank you, because one of the things I really appreciated about that meditation was the recollection. Is that the word anusati? Is that the word for it? But I felt like you incorporated something that I'd never done. I'd never done that in Metta. I'd done that separately. I'd done that, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do some recollecting of my virtue or merit. But you did it in the Metta, and it was just really, it works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope that my practice, I've done a lot of sitting, a lot of meditating. So hopefully I can give you a few tips. Metta is a concentration practice. It's all about generating a feeling of metta, a sensation of metta. And however you do that is totally up to you. Kittens always work. But yeah, seriously, I think going through the list of people and recollecting good deeds is something that also helps.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bodhi. One last question and then we'll wrap up. So this question is, thanks for sharing, Bodhi. Is there a point in the practice where noting becomes too tiresome and we can just notice what is happening in the present moment without the mental volition of additional mental noting?
Oh, like that one. Yes, yeah, look, the answer is obviously yes. Noting is a technique we use at the beginning so that we're more mindful. It just helps mindfulness. At the beginning, noting might take 90% of your energy and you might only be 10% with the actual experience. But that will change over time. Over time, it should probably rest, you know, with 90% with the experience and 10% with the noting. So you're actually still with the experience, but you're just very gently noting, hearing, thinking, you know, whatever it is, pain, whatever it is that you're feeling, you just gently note it. We generally do it twice. Yeah. So, yeah, noting's great. It's just, we use it all the time. Sorry, did that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It gets to that point where the noting, especially when the mind becomes really subtle and very present, then the noting almost becomes a hindrance because really the noting is of a phenomena that has already passed. So then by dropping that, then someone can just be present to the experience without the.
Oh, look, absolutely. If you're at that level, this talk was probably not designed for you. So I'm absolutely happy to have an advanced Dharma talk. If you want me to come back and do a really advanced Dharma talk, I'm happy to do that on Vipassana and rebirth. If you want, but if you're at that level where the noting's causing you any sort of hindrance, just let it go. Just let it go. If your mindfulness is that good that the noting is causing you your mindfulness issues, let it go. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. If you're at that level, that's fantastic. That's great.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Bodhi, and thank you everyone for your questions. I'm just going to hand it to Elise now to close the session.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you Bodhi, especially for your tips and sharings. Before we finish off, Bodhi, I'd like to invite you to give a dedications of merits, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So look, we share the merit made by us today with all people, with our family and friends and our teachers, people in our society, even difficult people. All of the merits we've made today, we share with all the beings in the universe. May they all be well and happy. May they all be free from suffering.
Thank you so much, Bodhi, and thanks everyone again for attending. I really hope you got lots of tips out of today's sessions. And for those who are interested, you can research more about it and deepen your practice. So next week we have Venerable Aileen Barry speaking on the topic of opening the heart. So if you're interested, please come. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No worries, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
He's a great speaker. Hope you come. Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
worries. All the
Thanks
best.
a lot.